We have an excellent show for you today. We are approaching the end, unfortunately. We have to get some more time somehow.
Yeah.
We got to figure that out.
You looking for a co-host, Kevin?
I actually, we'll definitely discuss that. So yes, I have a few more questions I wanted to ask you, and we're talking about emotions, and I don't think technically this is not an emotion, more of a trait. Patience is a trait that you have to have if you plan on being successful in literally anything, but particularly finance. And I want to take a step back. So first, talking about patience, like the next 5 to 10 years, where do you see yourself and your company?
It's a good question. I have to think about this. So for me personally, my 30th birthday is going to be this year.
Yay!
So, thinking about starting a family within those next 5 years, hopefully moving to Southern California because I just can't deal with the winter anymore, these polar vortexes. I hope to have written like a book or two by then, both about kind of my personal journey and then also something kind of more along the personal finance or investing lean. And then business-wise, want to keep executing on the things that I really put into place last year. So that's the LIT program that launched at colleges around the country in the fall and is doing incredibly well so far. That's also the retail courses, and then also on the corporate side. And then by then, I want to have gotten back into like the investing world, and that's where the access in my head is really going to be the strongest. There's and I don't want to give away too much, but there's an area of the financial world in Wall Street that I think is just so antiquated, and that the revenue models are so ripe for innovation. And that there's an audience that wants this information and wants it delivered in a certain way. And I think that I'm, really trying to kind of lay the foundation, put the steps in place to be the person to give it to them. So I hope that by then, when I come back on here in 5 to 10 years, that we'll be talking about that service product.
Good. And this one is a left, I wouldn't call it left field, but this one is out there. What was the first money book that you read?
Oh, man.
And how did it affect you?
I don't know what the first money book I read was. I think I'll tell you what the most impactful money book was.
Works.
Does that work? So I read Tony Robbins' Money Master the Game in 2015. This was at the time I had just left Wall Street officially. My husband and I were getting relocated to Japan because he's in the Navy. And I was at this crossroads where I was like, okay, do I try to find a job in Tokyo working for, another hedge fund or, private equity shop or something? Or do I try to venture out on my own and really serve the community I want to serve? And I was reading that book, and just the way that he lays out, a lot of the kind of pitfalls that everybody gets themselves into, and the amount of time that he dedicated to this effort to informing the American public or any of his readers about this. He spent over 4 years talking to numerous very well-known, high-profile financial individuals. And to me, I was like, okay, if he can dedicate 4 years of his life to this, then, by God, I can dedicate at least a few years to try this out and try to figure out if I can use my knowledge and skill set to serve that audience too.
Wow. I think I really should, flush this theory out. I think the first book that you read about money really influences how you see the world and how you make your wealth, or the way in which you do it. Because every book that you read, especially finance, is going to change you in some way. The first book that I read, I guess I'll back up. So I had got into a car wreck 2006 after the Super Bowl, the one that it was Peyton Manning and the Chicago Bears, the rainy, boring Super Bowl. Wasn't as bad as last week.
However, boring Super Bowl last week? Sorry.
Yeah, so it wasn't nearly as bad as last week. Anyway, Peyton Manning won. I got into a car wreck, and then I had to get a job immediately to help pay for that car. And I ended up getting a job as a janitor at a library. So every night, I'm in high school, this is sophomore, junior year, and every night I'll go mop the floors, throw out the trash or whatever in the libraries, which gave me a lot of time with books. And behind the librarian's desk was Automatic Millionaire by David Bach, who I ended up getting to meet for the first time last year. And that was what turned my mind on to automation and taking the emotion out of money. And everything I do, from our household finances for me and my wife, my investment accounts for my son, it's all automated so that I don't have to think about it. And when I used to sit down with clients, it was, tell me what you're trying to do. I help you set, simplify, and achieve your goals so you can focus on what's most important. And the automation piece almost guarantees that you're going to hit whatever goal you're going to hit. and then it takes the emotion out of it, and then I don't have to worry about that. The money is not the thing I have to worry about because it's doing what it's doing because I've automated it, sat down, did it one time, and it's going to continue that until I say otherwise. Well, I can go focus on my son, creating more wealth, a show, a book, or whatever it is. But I think the first book that you read is always impactful, and it shapes a big aspect of how you see money from that point forward.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Absolutely. I mean, looking back, like books that I read earlier than that, because when I got the job at the hedge fund, that I didn't even know what a hedge fund did.
Mm-hmm.
They like mailed me like 3 different books. I think one was like Investing for Dummies, no joke. Another one was
at least they sent it to you instead of just letting you drown.
Yeah, I know. No, they were like, you need to read this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And those were really kind of like the rude awakening that I had. I think that was really, I like to talk about like the 4 levels of competency, where
Mm-hmm.
at first you're like unaware of how much you don't know.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it slaps you in the face and you are aware of how much you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That was my rude awakening. When I was reading those books, I was like, wait, what is this S&P 500? Like, what?
Right.
So, yeah, but I think the most impactful money book I've read is definitely the Tony Robbins Master of the Game.
Perfect. There you go. There are your reading recommendations for today's show. As we wrap up, where can people keep in touch? How can they follow you? And how can they learn more about your story?
Sure. So you can come to my website, which is riseupllc.com. That's REISUPLLC.com. You can sign up for my newsletter. I send out an email pretty much every week about either a YouTube video that I've just published and a topic that's on my mind. Like, for example, this week it was about 401k automation, actually, interestingly enough. And you can also subscribe to me on YouTube at Rise Up LLC and follow me on Instagram at Rise Up LLC as well.
All right. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Kevin.
I really appreciate it. This is Building Bread with Kevin Matthews, the financial educator, on WHCR 90.3 FM in New York. We will see you next week.